Hi, I'm Pam, and I'm here to talk about video games. Today I'm talking about one of my most anticipated games from this year. It's the follow-up to 2015's Until Dawn. It's The Quarry. The Quarry is an interactive horror adventure game developed by Supermassive Games and released for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox in June of 2022. I played on Series X with the code provided by the marketing team for this review. The game pays homage to some classic 80s horror movies, with a group of teens fighting for their lives amongst an unknown threat. You control 9 different characters and try to help them survive the night. Or get them horribly killed. Your choice. The game boasts a wide variety of endings, and the content you will see depends heavily on your actions. Things kick off with Max and Laura, 2 teens making their way up to Hackett's Quarry summer camp, where they're to be camp counselors. However, something drives them off the road, and it seems they're not alone. You get to choose how Laura reacts to this stressful situation, but ultimately some very bad choices need to be made to kick off the night's events. Wander into the woods alone? Check. Ignore local advice on where to go? Oh yeah. Break into and explore a scary basement? Of course. How else could things go horribly wrong? If you've played Until Dawn, The Quarry will seem very familiar. They both look stunning. They revel in horror tropes, have a variety of characters ripe for loving or hating, and have similar mechanics. But whereas Until Dawn had the benefit of novelty, The Quarry seems like a more polished game with better writing and overall experience. This is, in a lot of ways, an interactive movie. However, there are a number of ways in which you control the action. First, there are the QuickTime events. During more action-oriented segments, a prompt will appear showing one of the analog sticks. It honestly wasn't clear at first which one it referred to, and at the last minute, a direction will show up and you'll have to push the stick in that direction. These directions aren't really a surprise. If you're ducking under a branch, you'll have to press down. To jump over something, press up. Stuff like that. There's also a hold breath mechanic that comes into play when you're hiding from danger. This just involves holding down the A button until it's safe, which is much easier than holding your vibrating DualShock controller completely still, which is what was used in Until Dawn. There are also a number of decision points. The character you're playing will be presented with 2 options for how they respond to another character, or to choose a direction, while you get a close-up of their face. These decisions can impact relationships between characters, their moods, and the way parts of the story go. There are also a number of times when you get to more freely explore the area you're in. This is how you find clues about what's going on here and the history of Hackett's Quarry. Items which may come in handy later on, as well as tarot cards, which can be used between chapters to see a glimpse of possible futures. The game is quite simple to control, and though walking around freely with your flashlight can feel a bit awkward at times, it's perfectly serviceable. Many of the multitude of possible deaths in this game are caused by failing QuickTime events, which may be a problem because it's very difficult to fail. If the idea of not doing your best is anathema to you, this may be annoying. However, if you're willing to just set the controller down and let a character fall face first into a bear trap, there are a lot of gruesome deaths to look forward to. And who are these characters risking life and limb for your enjoyment? They're a group of teenage camp counselors, stuck at the camp for an extra night after all the campers have gone home. There's the emotionally stunted jock, the shy, artistic girl who's gone the whole summer without revealing her feelings to her crush, the stoic yet charming one who drives the girls and the boys crazy. I actually ended up really liking most of the characters because I found them quite well written. Sometimes I'd question, would a teenager really say that? Then I'd realize it didn't matter since I have no idea what teenagers say. What mattered was that I found it entertaining.
Dude, we're gonna be out partying in the woods tonight, all right? What if the bears try to crash? Okay, it's like my mom always said, if you want to party, you gotta bring protection.
Well, I think that she was talking about condoms.
I'm not gonna fuck a bear.
Your choices will impact exactly how each character communicates with the others, and there are choices to make them into real jerks. But generally, the way I played anyway, I found myself liking them more and more as the game went on, and I wanted to keep them alive. On this playthrough anyway. They're all dying on the next one. Every character is modeled after and voice acted by actors of varying levels of familiarity. There's Skylar Gisondo from The Righteous Gemstones, Ariel Winter from Modern Family, and Ted Raimi, who I very much enjoyed. David Arquette is the most promoted name, but he only got about 5 minutes of screen time in my game. The narrator this time around is Grace Zabriskie, who I best know as Laura Palmer's mother. This was an inspired casting choice, as she does unsettling very well.
There's no need to worry. I'm here to help you. Think of me as your guide into the unknown. It's exciting, yes.
Brenda Song's Caitlin ended up being one of the standout characters for me, and though most of the teens made it out alive in my first game, I have a feeling she'd be the final girl if things had gone differently. The story is classic 80s horror fare. It's an amalgamation of many things you've probably seen before, but put together in an entertaining way. There's an overstepping cop, some threatening hillbillies, and supernatural creatures out in the woods. In the beginning, the drama between the characters takes more of a center stage, and I do think it kicks off a little slowly. It takes just a touch too long before things start going sideways and they all realize they're in danger. However, the pace is kept up by switching between characters frequently, and everything is nicely divided into chapters. It didn't take me too long to realize exactly who and what was a threat to the teens, but I enjoy the dramatic irony of knowing more than the characters, and there were a few surprises along the way. The presentation of the game is top-notch. It's beautiful to look at, the motion capture is great, and it does an admirable job of combining an 80s aesthetic with the modern-day setting. The menus and transitions when you make a choice have a great VHS look, complete with tracking lines. You can see how certain storylines within the game are progressing and which decisions have an impact on them by examining a series of VHS tapes, complete with over-the-top covers and titles. I really liked that little touch. I was also very impressed with the sound design. Wearing headphones is recommended if you're playing alone in order to totally appreciate it. Besides the sound effects and great voice acting, there are also some really good and fitting licensed songs in here. I have a tendency to dislike the music choices in games about teenagers, but here, they were all great. The Quarry offers multiple game modes and really does seem to be aimed at group play, since this is a game that's just as fun to watch as it is to play yourself. In addition to the single-player mode, you can also play couch co-op, where each character controls certain characters, or watch the movie mode, where you can select whether you want to see the everyone dies story, the everyone lives story, or make the decisions yourself. I have a couple complaints about the game that are specific to its publisher, 2K. Unlike every other game I've played on Xbox since the release of the series, the Xbox One and the Xbox Series are different games with different price points. You don't automatically get upgraded from one to the next and instead have to pay an extra $10. There's also some nonsense with deluxe and again, more expensive editions. If you have the deluxe edition, you get access to a rewind feature that lets you take it back when a character dies so you can try again. In the normal version, you have to complete the game once before this option unlocks. The deluxe edition giving alternate 80s costumes or visual filters is fine, but locking off a game mechanic like this is a bit sus. On the bright side, the game does offer a wide array of accessibility options. There are lots of ways you can improve the subtitles and can add closed captioning to make things easier to follow. There are also a number of ways to adjust how the game controls and how QuickTime events are handled. Things like holding down A rather than mashing the button at times, or adding aim assist and changing how long you have to perform button prompts. I had a lot of fun with the Quarry. My first time through, I ended up playing it constantly over 2 different game sessions, and my game clocked in about 12 hours. I've since streamed a bit, which was a lot of fun, and I hope to do a playthrough with friends soon. I ended up liking it even more than Until Dawn, as I thought the characters were stronger, funnier, and more interesting. If you like 80s horror and cinematic video games, I definitely recommend you play this, especially if you've got some friends to share the experience with. If you want to see more, check out one of my other videos linked here. I have a Patreon if you want to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.